sometimes it's just give us the capital.
Yeah, truly. Just move the money.
Briefly describe your organization's work in a few sentences.
We work in West Oakland, that's where we're rooted, but we've also expanded to working in neighborhoods of East Oakland and unincorporated Alameda County. And we've always been anchored in food. We think of food as being a key lever in creating wealth building for individuals and as a way of spurring local economic development in the communities that we partner with. And we do that by sourcing from local and small family farmers of color through our food hub, moving that food to retail partners, and through our donation program. We work with food entrepreneurs to formalize and launch their food business. We provide support to about 9 independent grocers to increase healthy foods in their store, but advocate for them with the city and help promote their stores in their neighborhood. And we train folks primarily in reentry and kitchen and culinary to be able to get fair paying jobs in the food sector.
So there's a lot of myths about food deserts, especially in parts like in Oakland and areas and communities like in Oakland. Based on your work and the communities you work with, what are some of the myths that you feel like you want to debunk that you're consistently having to debunk?
I think the term food desert is misleading in and of itself. It glosses over the fact that so many communities that are considered food deserts are actually food apartheids, that these communities look the way that they look now because of racist government policies like redlining, that has led to a lot of disinvestment in East Oakland. And I also just want to shout out one of our staff members, Amani Ali, who has really, I think, spearheaded a lot of this shift in narrative around food deserts, particularly in communities like East Oakland and West Oakland. And so much of what I'm about to share, I think, is really indebted to her and the work that she's done within the Healthy Grocery Initiative to shift that narrative. So yeah, to just bring it back, I think the term itself is misleading. These aren't, in fact, food deserts. They're communities that have been, systematically, structurally impacted by bigger picture policies. And that there's a lot of food in this community, right? There are dozens of small community markets and grocery stores and corner stores throughout East and West Oakland that have been providing food for communities for several decades at this point. But so much of the attention is on what we actually should consider a supermarket, a superstore, that covers a lot more square footage, that carries a lot more inventory. And so I think when there's this overt focus on bringing in, a big box retailer into a community, it's unfortunate because we have dozens of retailers that have been anchors in these communities for a long time, that if we just shifted our investments to those spaces, so much more could be possible because of those existing connections that they have with their local neighborhood. And those stores are impacted by supply chain issues too. Like what would things look like if we invested capital and resources and technical assistance and grants to those already existing retail networks that are serving community, I think, really effectively? Is it, sometimes the best quality fruits and vegetables? No, but that's also a result of supply chain issues and buying power, right? But we can get creative about how to address those quality issues. And I think we're already doing a lot of that work within the Healthy Grocery Initiative.
One thing that we hear a lot is, how will this work be sustainable? And it's frustrating, to be quite honest, because the real answer is that with, your $200,000 grant, or sometimes a lot less, like, this work won't be sustainable in 2 years, and it won't be led. It's not something where community is going to take this under their wing and do this for free. And I think that's another misconception. It's like, oh, if you get this grant, then you can just train your community to do this. And it's extremely challenging to kind of work with those systems. It's taken years for, us as a country to disinvest and to take away from the community that's been there. And so it's insulting to see something that says, with, this tiny infusion of money, you can just like make it better. because we can't. And we're working toward it. And I think we have a future where that's possible with the work that we've done with our communities and with our staff that have just, I think, shed just a really powerful voice on how we should be doing the work differently. But that's been a really hard, kind of hard system to operate under with some of these initiatives that ask about sustainability.
Yes, can't agree more. Yeah, a 2-year grant is not an anti-poverty measure, right? You need sustained, ongoing investment, and also I think buy-in from your local government, where it's at this whether it's at the city or county level, to help subsidize the cost of that food. That is literally what it takes.
Sometimes it's just give us the capital.
Yeah, truly, just move
Trust
the
us.
money.
Yeah, it's that simple. Like we trust what we're doing. Trust our capacity, our commitment, and our ability to really continue to impact the communities. What would you like funders, partners, allies, and others to know about what it's like and why it's needed for them to back and fund organizations like Mandela Partners?
I think just going back to the pandemic, which always is going to feel front of mind for a really long time. But what I think it did do is it created a test, and it um, surfaced a lot of the inequities we already knew were happening in our local food and economic systems. And I think it really kind of brought up this need, like we need to be focusing not just locally, but with community-led organizations that have been here for a long time. We can't just be focusing on these like helicopter initiatives that are just popping up and are going to soon go away once this is over. And I actually think that that's something that our funders started to understand as well. We have a lot of different foundation partners who just got in there with us. And I think with COVID, you don't have time to be polite anymore. You just have to say, like, this is what I'm seeing. This is what others are doing that, is continuing to exacerbate these inequities. Like, we need this now, or our community is going to suffer long term. You don't have to play the game like we did before with like the traditional evaluation metrics and showing numbers. Like, you can invest based on trust and based on the relationships that you've built over time with organizations like ours and the communities that we serve, and that should speak for itself with the work that we do. And so we've, I think, been able to slow down a little bit because of these different funders that we work with that have said that's okay. Like let's focus our attention a little differently so that we can do the work meaningfully, and that's been incredibly powerful, and we are just forever grateful for that.
We know it's important to make sure that we're constantly, engaging folks that we work with, that we partner with. What advice would you have or would you share with organizations that are looking to incorporate community input into their programs and services?
I think it is important to lean on existing partnerships to help facilitate the connection to community members that you're seeking feedback from, and ensure that those partnerships are strong and that there's a lot of trust there before jumping into to surveying or focus groups or what have you. And then just bringing, I think, a really equitable lens to the way that you communicate with constituents and how you gather feedback from them, ensuring that it's not extractive, it's not burdensome, that it's in an accessible language, of course. um, and ideally, and this is something that we're working toward, I think we're kind of at the phase 1 and 2 of gathering community input. And eventually, we really want to work directly with community members to shape the way that we capture information and feedback from different community members. I think that feels incredibly important, that the approach that we take is not solely informed by our program team or by like a nonprofit consultant or something. We want to ensure that the folks that we're seeking feedback from are also a part of the design of that approach and the way that we gather and incorporate feedback into our programs. And then ultimately, developing more pathways for community members to design the work, to inform the work, and hopefully one day lead the work. I think that's something that I dream about, is how do we create pathways for local community members to be a part of our organization.
And one, just to tag on to that comment, Ciara, and I think this kind of plays into how we're really trying to have it feel community led and community designed. We stipend or provide honorariums in the same way to community that we would a consultant, and I think that sometimes gets lost when folks come in and are like, "Hey, we want your input." That's great, but we're still going to do this other thing, and we've also stolen your time. So we try really hard to compensate folks fairly, and also, move away from what we thought we knew and incorporate those elements that speak to what folks are saying, what they want.
What hopes do you have for the future of this work?
To get to some of these more innovative ways of thinking about programming and community-led versus like community-informed, we have to get more unrestricted funding, and we're doing a better job than we ever have of moving that way. And I think our funders have been with us along that road to help move in that direction. But that, I think, is the only way forward of getting unrestricted or general operating funds to move more freely and be able to design programs that speak to what the community needs.
We want to work with funders who trust our judgment, who trust our tenure, the legacy of the work that we've done, so that we're able to do work that is innovative, that we can work with integrity. And I think our ultimate hope is that Mandela Partners no longer has to exist in the way that it currently does, because a lot of these issues will have been addressed really effectively.